Okay, starting off on the weekly chart. So first time after 3 weeks of the bulls currently running. At one point in time we had the bears were pushing the price, we're way in control. Now there's a lot of buying pressure to the upside. Create still a new higher high, higher low at this point, stabilization. Next week will be a really good decider. So if they will push the price all the way down, then on next level, probably around even halfway, that's part of the stabilization, part of the correction, and more continuation. But so strong, looking at the monthly, can't go against that. So hence the probability that if the dollar index will choose to keep on dropping, then this is also going to continue to go to the upside. And we can see that probably this is just a stabilization point before more continuation further. As far as I'm concerned, I think my next target point from my weekly market updates and my reports is around this 14.6. So just another 100 points to the upside. That will happen like there's no tomorrow very, very quickly. So from the higher high, higher low, slight corrections over 14.4, good demand, bullish at the moment in terms of the daily chart. Then there's no reason why the Dow couldn't go to 14.6. So will that occur and beyond, then 14.7 and then 14.9, then probably even 15,000 somewhere sometime if it chooses to. However, once there is a certain point, a certain degree, one of the bigger time frames, and we can see, say, another high doesn't want to supersede this one's high at 14.5, 46 on next week. Then we're going to change strategy. We're going to short that more of a medium term before we can go back more long to the upside. All right, so that's my take on the S&P and the Dow in terms of the index or the indices, which ties hand in hand with the dollar index. All right, any question in terms of the macro fundamental things?
No.
Nothing? Going once,
No questions.
Twice? Okay, great. And if you also notice in Bloomberg, so earnings, Cyprus debate, yeah, they created some forum of the certainty a little bit, but I believe it's not over yet. Okay, and I'll show you, go through on the euro against the dollar. Based on the weekly, you can see through here we have a lower low. So from this point, as far as I'm concerned, they have more room in order for this to test and retest for the whole week. And the next lows around these levels. Here is really good level of demand. Pretty much around 128.24. Another 150 pips to the downside. And if now we go through on the daily chart, it's not over. I think they're just trying to consolidate a little bit, trying to make it good to the public, see how, unless this will break, then we can have a better one. But in terms of the bigger time frame of the weekly, it's really bearish and not a good idea. So in terms of the shorter time frame, yes, I did went long around at 129.19 around this point. It was mainly just due to that report and just took pretty much that opportunity. I didn't put in a live, basically on the trade alerts because of the uncertainty still of the events, and I just took it on my own personal account itself. All right, M2, there's, let's go through on the weekly based on method 2. Yes, even though it's on the oversold area, there's no trigger at all, so we're going to leave that alone. Daily chart, there is a little bit of that divergence factor. So if we're going to look at the bulls currently in control, they might push it to the upside, but like I said on the weekly, I need the clear cut that this has to go through and break because there's still that room. So this one will change that to that. There's still that empty space. So there's still that probability that they may continue. So it's lower low, lower high, lower low. I need to see that V formation in order to change a trend. So at the moment, it might look good, but they can take you out similar to last Friday. So if you're in this situation and you went long last week, that's how you get caught. It's being now on a Friday. They're just probably trying fishing people, thinking that it's really okay, but in actual fact, probably it's not okay. So there's nothing right there. M3. Here will be a proper clear indicator next on Sunday. By the end of Sunday, then we might have an opportunity to go back in on a clearer cut based on what the weekly or the day will do next week. Okay, so I'm staying away. Nothing in the euro against the dollar. Then therefore, let me go through it now as well with the euro against the yen. Wasn't ready to with the euro against the yen as far as I'm concerned. This will tank further. So we can see through here, it failed. There was a failure in order to create a new higher high. You see how you see this morning star or evening star pattern. They will retest this low right here at 118.76. So in terms of a higher probability, I'm more inclined to short this than actually to go long. So there's nothing right there indicating that it's going to go up, even though it's a good level of demand, but that low, we have a new lower low. So if it's really that strong, the price should have been here already, but it didn't want to. So and we're looking at this bar, stabilization, continuation, can drop further 118.70. That's another 400 pretty much pips to the downside. So that's pretty cool. Higher probability of dropping. Nothing on M2. So if we go on the weekly, bingo. So here we go. So we have now a clear indication. Well, it's not over yet. So I'm going to make a decision in about an hour and 45 minutes that if the price is really going to be below on that 123.32, because the euro is actually pretty volatile as well. Anything can happen. It can come back up to 123.32. But just looking at it there, pretty much on the safe side in terms of the trigger. So anything before 1 o'clock or even before 2. Fortunately, if you're using CMC accounts based in London, then, or if you're trading in Australia, it's going to get shut down automatically at 1. I don't really get it why they should, technically speaking, follow US rules too, but CMC is also based in England, so, but anyway, we'll see based on that. Alright, so if you're doing that before 12, yeah, that's a good one. So that's pretty much on my checklist, the euro yen to basically short more of a bigger time frame. Danger point, obviously in terms of that is now the stop. The stop is way too far from the current target point, 126. So that's a 400 out of something pips from the current price, and hence you can just put a small position rather than. I mean, if you have the issue, you guys should have the calculator anyway to create the position itself. Alrighty, let's move to M2 based on the daily. There is nothing. M3, see how it didn't want to play out. Almost touched the 8 once again, didn't want to, so definitely more. I'm certain that this is going to fail further to go to 118. So awesome. So there's another 400 pips. I mean, it's almost 1.5 to 1 relationship based on the weekly, and later on we can change that in terms of the high. We move into this, yeah, 118.36, all the way down 116 even, right? So on average between 400 to 600 pips from the current market price. So that's a pretty good amount. It's close to $4,000 to $6,000, pretty much if you're trading normal standard account. It will take time, probably 1, 2, 3, 4, who knows, but maybe a month or so in order to get down there, but that's pretty neat. All right, daily. There's nothing part of that. Okay, so we've tackled all the euro against the dollars. Let's go through the dollar against the yen. This is more currently I'm bullish with the dollar against the yen. I closed all my dollar yen positions at the moment. Why is that? Because of the trend. It's over 2 weeks of just correction. I think that's more than good enough for the dollar against the yen. And looking at the daily chart, see how the low doesn't want to supersede that low. So it was pretty neat actually. We re-entered currently close everything. But if it closes below this by next week, then totally different ball game. Come back to that 92. So can make another 250 pips to the downside right there. M2. Let me just leave that on the weekly. Right, method number 2, none in terms of that weekly chart. Yes, oversold, but there's no clear indication of showing. Nothing on the daily. M3, we have shows a different perspective. Here is an entry to go short on the dollar against the yen. Okay, let me double check on the weekly as well. Yeah, it's too far from the 8 and the 10 on the monthly. Wow, 1,000 pips. That's awesome. Okay, when the time comes, then yeah, we can short that guy. Daily chart's already saying to short. Not quite convinced though, based on the weekly. I mean, you can go 80.58. Right, if we choose to short that today, then there's only a portion around this level based on the demand level. Okay, if it can come back a little bit, power close at 8, the 10 probably even better, 95.26 is like a 70 pips something, but being in the demand level, yeah, okay, can make approximately about 100. Yeah, about 100. That's not too bad. 130, 140 pips to the downside. It's not too bad, provided that this has to break down that low right there, 94.06. So we have an M3 on the dollar against the yen. Right, pound against the dollar. Looking at the weekly chart, awesome. Currently now touching that, still pretty much on the downtrend. Took some profits at the end based on that trade. So probably just one left. There might come another push to go through here. My last profit target, I just didn't want to be greedy, is about 95.46, 95.47. It can go all the way here, 52, 70, 60 odd something. So bulls are still pretty in control, still pretty strong. So I'm applying lots of the profit target right there, and then I'll be shorting once there's a clear cut. Once I see a lower high, then I'll be shorting the pound against the dollar. Right, M2 getting to the overbought at the moment. So in terms of the weekly, it's just a beginning pretty much. They have some more room, but because they're still on the downtrend, I can't really. They don't really care. In terms of indicators, doesn't really care. The market's the marketplace. Daily chart, still it's an overbought. There's no indication. There's more room based on M3. Can go all the way further. Can come back down, go further. I'm looking at the weekly too. None. So there's an extra room. Even it's saying here about 53 even, but it all depends on the calculation of the close by next week. But definitely have some opportunity to touch around that area, getting close to the 8 before I can fail. Alright, daily chart. I'm sorry, we just already looked at daily chart, so there's definitely more room in terms of that. Alrighty, dollar against the Swiss. Dollar against the Swiss, closed some of the positions. The reason why I already closed, actually, I got a good price at 94 in terms of the closing price earlier, is because I don't like this tail. Right, they will retest that. We are currently in an uptrend. On the shorter uptrend, higher highs, higher lows. Next one will be higher high. Okay, I'm not convinced that this will drop even further. I mean, it can, as long as, if it breaks through here, then it could all go all the way down to 93. But being part of level demand, just want to happy just to take the profit and basically run. M2, there's none but getting to the over sold right there. So weekly, now weekly is stating on the overbought. So there's a probability could drop, but I just don't like being on that uptrend right there. Alrighty, M3. Let's go through first on the weekly chart. Weekly, there might be a probability to get down on the demand, 93.32. Alright, daily chart. Try to go above the 8, then doesn't want to. So back to the first one. We're going to wait for another to close to go below the 8 or 10, and we're going to have a trigger. So far, there's nothing right there. Alright, looking at the euro against the Swiss briefly. So they're still hovering between these 2 points, midpoints. Daily chart. See, we have a symmetrical triangle right there. They have to make a decision. So I'll leave that alone for now. So between the primary and secondary, they're just playing within the game. So probably it can go back to 2260, 50 pips to the upside. Highly probable. Okay, looking at the Aussie against the weekly chart. M2 was awesome from last week. Yeah, it's still not too bad. I believe there can have more room of 105.48. The reason why I currently closed now this position is because it currently touched the primary downtrend. From a higher high perspective, if they break through there, then great. We can re-enter again and can go all the way to 105.69. So this is pretty much from the last order. There's from a 102 and a 102.50 perspective, and this is pretty much it. I'm done with that. I'm gonna wait from a higher high back to higher low, then they might retest it again to create a new higher high. Right, so that's from that M2 right there all the way to probably 105.63 even, but we're gonna wait. And it's currently in the equilibrium area based on the weekly, daily chart based on the overbought. Weekly based on M3, first time saying to go long. Okay, so after pretty much how many weeks breaking below the 8 or 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks finally took over to gain some confidence that this can go all the way up. So there's another entry in the Aussie USD weekly, basically to go long, so which makes sense. It's the opposite of the others. Okay, there's another one to reconsider. It can go 105, or it can go another 100 pips. Okay. If it comes back down a little bit more, just to correct itself a little bit, then even better. So I might just do that and wait, actually. Looking at the daily chart, Doji can have an opportunity to come back down. Yes, it could. Okay. Right, but other than that, there is nothing. Dollar against the CAD. Dollar against the CAD based on the weekly chart that didn't want to perform. Probably is a much better note too from the bearish perspective. Consolidation, stabilization, probably more continuation to go to the downside too. So here we go. Okay, part of that is heading just following through there. So we have a clear symmetrical triangle between the two. Actually, let me change that now since we have a new change of trend. Okay, go through primary. Secondary. Primary. There we go. So they need to make a decision by Sunday whether this is going to fail to go to the downside. My take on it, they might fail here. If the dollar index is going to be weaker, then this is going to continue. Actually, let me have a quick look at yeah, that's also one good thing about this. My close the Aussie, then crude oil quickly. So crude oil, there was a gap from the opening, higher high. They can go all the way to 94.06. Yeah, okay, then the CAD will be a little bit stronger then yeah, it can drop back down. Okay, sweet. Right, more of a short side in terms of the dollar against the CAD. Nothing on M2 based on the daily. Let's look at the weekly quickly. Way on the overbought. Okay, so I'm more inclined that to the downside. There's another opportunity to go below the 8 to the 10. So another 20, add 70 pips just to fill in this range right here. Okay. Right, Kiwi. Kiwi is another awesome trade. As far as I'm concerned, they can go all the way to that 84. So another add 50, add something pips. Okay, let me actually change that. So they're currently breaking out, so they can go back all the way to that 85 level, back to the supply level. So we can see here very clearly it's just going in a sideways movement. Pretty predictable actually. So we're back to the demand, next in the supply. We're just going to wait. So there's more room in order for this to head back. Currently I reckon it's on the equilibrium area. And 2, so there's also some change of trend, so there's more room right there. But no, then again, the market is the market. It can do whatever it wants to do. Clear breakout on the demand. So 84 all the way to 84.50. And some of my accounts actually took some profits out just to be on the safe side. In terms now on the weekly and M3, first time breaking out of the 8 to the 10. Can it go below the 10 before closing? It could, so 20 pips to the downside. And looking at the daily though, really neat. So from an entry perspective, we entered there, but I was late by about a minute or two, hence it triggered over here. So it's still pretty much on within the criteria, but because already a nice big jump from the 2, about 100 pips. That's why I took some profits out as well in terms of that. Okay, there goes on the Kiwi, euro against the pound. This one was tanking. I believe there's more room for this to tank as well. 84 down to even 83. So with the size of that bar, that's why I'm not really keen of going long with the euro. Euro is pretty weak at the moment. So with the size of that bar, the odds and probability they will fail further is more than likely to happen. Daily, trying to stabilize itself. Consolidation, correction, continuation. M2, even though it's an oversold, it might rebound a little bit, and then it will fail when that happens, then even better, since we have a lower low. Lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low. Okay, M3 didn't even touch the 8 to 10, so even if it does, and even better, so we can get a much better price. So my plan on that one is to be patient, just wait, and then short it. Okay, we have definitely a new change of trend. We'll look at the euro yen, pound yen. Pound yen is a different ball game against the euro, against the yen, but because of that shorter term downtrend as well, odds and probability, this is gonna go here, and even this one fail, it will head back around at 132 as well. So there's approximately another opportunity to make another 1,000 pips with the euro against the pound against the yen. You can see now on the daily they don't want to. It's trying to stabilize itself. I'm more bearish than anything as well with this. So if it can come back up next week by approximately back to another 100 pips, then I'll be shorting this guy right there. M2, there is nothing. But definitely still pushing to the downside. Likewise for the weekly, it's not over yet, I reckon. So there's more room to go to the oversold area. M3, there is nothing indicating. Right, so part of that, there might be an exit out of there, but part of the doji. Okay. Yes, so now M3 perspective, it may continue to go on, but if it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't want to go through below that, this is going to come back down and fail. Right, daily. It's just hitting just right there below it. They don't want to go below the 8 to 10. They're not going to go above it either, hence the uncertainty part of that equilibrium level between that demand and supply. Right, last but not the least, the pan against the Swiss was perfect from what we've been establishing through that 139 level, creating that support base, gave another opportunity to go short on that, and it create a new demand, area of demand right there. So probability, go back to 145 now, is pretty strong. Okay, with the size of that bar, continuation, and then because it's also such a big gap from that primary downtrend right here. So 147.50 can create new highs or lows. Next one is these levels. The biggest level is about that 147. Okay. And then we'll struggle to, it will try and touch between two major big points, or just call maybe two ones, this distance and that distance. And if this is pretty clear, it's going to be easy right already, 147.17. Right, daily, trying to stabilize itself, a new higher high, create a new higher low, higher high. Weekly and M2, nothing, but on the oversold right there. Daily chart, overbought, and like I said, stabilization, minor correction, continuation, stabilization, continuation. M3 still within the criteria, there's no change right there. Looking at the weekly, touching the 8 of 10. Okay, so a lot of pretty good stuff right here. Euro yen to short based on M3 on the weekly chart. And we have the euro against the yen. Shorting actually based on method 2. Bingo. Okay, method 2. Right, and then we have the dollar yen. Dollar yen. Based on the daily, but if it can come back just a little bit, 95.25, 70 pips, then it will be great. It's being in a level of demand, not clear yet, so I'll just put that as a 2-star. And then Aussie USD. Aussie USD based on the weekly chart, basically to go long as well. Similar to this, I would prefer if this one basically drops a little bit more. Alright, those are my 3 choices. Any questions?
No questions. Thanks for a good week.
Ray, I got a question.
Yes.
So just to add a admin question, where do we go to find recordings of these of these on the website?
On your membership, you should have it called the weekly review. Click on that one, and it should be in there. Okay.
Weekly review. Okay, got it.
Just me go back. Hang on a sec. Just check. Kind of. Yeah, let's go back to the members. And video replay, sorry.
Okay, cool. Got it.
And no worries. And everything is in there. If there's no attendees, then it's just mainly what's all on the previous week and so forth. Alright. Okay, guys, you have a good one, and happy trading. See you next week.
Thanks, Ray.
No problem. Bye.
Bye.